Okay, we got all the parts for the 204R here on the bench to take bushings, except for the 2 pump castings. So pump body, that's still pending receipt. Once I get that in, then we'll show you how to do the bushing install there, though it's no different than a 700R4 or 4L60E. And then as far as the stator bushing, that comes with the new stator, so there's no reason to, or no need I should say, to install a bushing there. But we have everything else. This transmission takes 13 total bushings if you count the rear case bushing, so that'll be the last bushing we do before we start building up the case. So for this transmission, you're going to need quite a lot of bushing drivers. As you can see, I mean, there's so many different sizes. I don't know how many sizes I have or how many different kits I'm actually using or pulling from, but I want to say it's at least 3 different transmission bushing driver kits. And also, you'll want to have some slide hammer and blind hole pullers. So if you have a slide hammer kit with a whole bunch of blind hole puller collet style deals, that's going to be incredibly helpful. You'll be using them, quite a few of those. And then you also want a long punch and a hammer. And then if you don't have a very small yet long blind hole puller to tackle the little bushing that's in the snout of the intermediate shaft, then you're going to just want to take a drill with a 1/2-inch bit and drill it out. So you're going to drill literally right through it, so that when you drill it through and through, there's just going to be a little tiny bit left of that bushing clinging to the inner diameter of that bore, and then you could just yank it right out with a pick. Alright, let's get to it. We'll actually do the drum there first, and then we'll do the rest of them afterwards. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is show you another forward drum where I have that bushing partway drilled out, just so you can see. And this is kind of a feel thing, technique. So basically, I want to get my rhythm going and practice on this drum. I have a few of these that are no good, so I'll drill a little bit of these before I drill the particular part that I actually am going to use in the build. So that's how I do it. You can do it however, and then I just go right on the floor with it and insert the drill. And my goal is to have the drill spinning as it makes contact with that bushing, so that the momentum will allow it to dig in without catching and kind of spinning the whole housing around on me. So this does take some technique, and I'm not going to lie, it's not the most preferred way to do this. The preferred way to pull this thing out would be via a blind hole puller, but unfortunately I don't have a puller that's dimensionally conforming to that bore there. So first I'm going to start on the practice drum, get my rhythm, and then I'll transition over to the actual drum that we're going to use in the build. Come in with it spinning. You don't want to be too aggressive. Alright, you don't want to be too aggressive, because eventually you're going to cock it sideways and it's going to catch. Like I said, this is not the preferred way to do this, but it's what I have for right now. And the other thing is, this drum's going to get hot, so let it cool off. Go at it for maybe 20 to 30 seconds, and then pause for about the same amount of time, or maybe a minute. And it's going to take you a little bit, but it'll come out eventually. Alright, so now we'll start with the actual workpiece that we're going to use. Make sure that you got good alignment. Periodically check it, and you'll see that there's about maybe 30 thousandths of bushing all the way around that's still hugging the inner diameter of the bore there. So this thing is literally just sized exactly right to do this. And obviously if you have a drill press, I mean that would be the most ideal situation if you're going to work with a drill on this thing. If it grabs it like that, no big deal, just, release the trigger, let it do its thing, and then, when you're ready, resume. Alright, that should be it. Just back it out. Okay, after a whole lot of smacking and a little bit more drilling, finally got it to come out. And then we blow it out with shop air. Alright, this particular bushing is a pain in the ass. I mean, it's just is what it is. So, if this is what you have to resort to, drill with a 1/2-inch bit. You just want to be slow and deliberate. Don't force anything. Don't rush. Just take your time, and eventually it'll come out. I don't know. This one was just in there for a long, long time, but it's out now. So we'll press in a new one and go from there. So when it comes to pressing it back in, just go ahead and square it up, get it centered as best as you can. If you want, you can kind of get it started with a hammer, just tap on it until it seats, and then from there take it to the press. Okay, we're at the press, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to seat it first right to flush, and then I'm going to seat it a little bit below flush using this driver here. So we're going to use the larger driver to get it to the surface of the shaft, to get it perfectly flush with the top of the shaft. I'm going to test the input shaft to see, how it fits. All right, so it's stopped. Let me grab the input shaft and then we'll check it. Okay. All right, now I'm going to seat it just below flush. All right, I'm gonna travel with it just a little bit more, like literally maybe a couple of 1/3 strokes, and that's it. All right. Check it one final time. All right, that feels perfect. I know you can't see it on the video, or I should say you can't feel it on the video, but what you want is this to slide in there nice and smooth and have just enough room to spin. Okay, if you have to clearance this thing for whatever reason, you're going to need one of those little, those sanding tools that have the rolled up sandpaper on the end of a shaft, and you go in here real fine grit. I wouldn't use anything coarser than about 600 grit, a little bit of 600, then 800, then 1000. Okay, you can find that stuff at like engine building supply places, websites. It's most commonly used, in engine building, especially cylinder head and block prep work and stuff like that. All right, drum's done. All right, now what I'm going to show is just the removal of the rest of these bushings, and then we'll press them all in one by one. So with the direct drum, I'll just use a long narrow drift and just kind of tap it in so that it eventually collapses, and then I'll push the bushing inward and then it'll pop right out. Now do the best you can not to mar up the drum, but if you do nick up the bushing surface, you'll want to take some sandpaper and smooth out any burrs, anything where it's kind of sticking out a little bit, so that you don't have a problem with the bushing and the mating surface of the center support not fitting. Okay, you can use a tool called a bushing cutter if that helps. Some of these can be really stubborn, so it might take a few minutes to get it out, or at least get it in a position where you can easily extract it. But you just keep going at it, being careful, and then eventually it'll come out.
go around in multiple spots so you can, try to collapse it incrementally and gradually. I mean, like I said, some of them are going to be stubborn. Okay, once you have enough of a lip like this exposed, or enough of a gap I should say, you can try to get underneath of it and force it out. And there it comes. You can go through and clean up any boo-boos or what have you whenever you want. So we'll come back to that one. Let's get this aside. And then move on to the next contestant. Alright, so this is going to be the coast clutch drum. So what I've done for any bushing that's not flush is I've noted the depth. Okay, so this is 7/16 from the very top of the structure. Okay, very top. Okay, I'm actually going to use the press. So I'll press this out and then be right back. So as you can see, there's really not a lot of room or a lot of access to this particular bushing. So you can go with a puller. That one looks a little too small. Okay. You just expand the puller and then use the slide hammer to wrap it out. If you don't have one of these, then you're going to want to be very careful and deliberate in tapping the bushing just enough so that you can get it collapsed. And then if you have a punch that's thin enough, you can go right through the gap between the housing sidewall and the pinion gear and collapse it inward, and then that'll pop it out. Okay, just you need to be real careful when you do that, that's all. So this one is actually, this one wouldn't fit. So you need something a little bit thinner than this. Alright, let me set up the slide hammer and then we'll resume. Alright, you just want to take it in your hands. Back, I'm going to use shirt to kind of protect my hands from the gears. So just like this. That's it. Slide hammer with pullers is always going to be the best method for bushing removal because it protects the workpiece, and to a lesser extent it protects you, but mostly the workpiece. You know, it's all too easy to, you know, make a mistake with a punch and let it slip and, you know, do some damage somewhere that maybe isn't as easy to fix. So if you're going to be doing a lot of transmissions, I'd recommend picking up 1 or 2 sets of blind hole bushing pullers. They're not very expensive and they are very effective. You always check your pinions. 9 to 27 thousandths on these. So, let's see, we got this bushing here. So something like this should work. All right, next I'm going to do the rear planet. Okay, that other one, my apologies, that was the overdrive planet. So this is the rear planet. And same deal, except for in the rear planet, you can get in behind it. So I'll show that. So just take your punch and then very carefully tap all the way around until the bushing comes out. Okay, you want to go right in the middle of the gears so you don't accidentally, hit one of them. So it looks like somebody has been at this before, and looks like there's some gouge marks, so let's take a little 400 grit sandpaper and just smooth them out. I mean, it shouldn't require much effort. All you're trying to do is get rid of any lip, anything that's standing up. Okay, it's not going to change or affect the bore in terms of its ability to hold a bushing. All you're doing is just preventing anything from that might cause that bushing to kind of collapse, inward, and then that'll frustrate your attempts to mate whatever goes here. In this case, it's going to be this surface right here. And then this is the new bushing. And then we're going to use a special driver that's specifically manufactured for this bushing. I know that says 204R direct on it. I don't use that bushing to replace any of the direct drum bushings. I'm not sure why I wrote that on there. Maybe that's how it was sold, and I just, labeled it as such without, checking or thinking about it. All right, so here is our low reverse support bushing. Notice that it has a groove for oil flow. So we're going to remove it. With the pre-existing bushing, I should say. So same deal. If you have enough of a gap here, you can get in there with a punch. I gotta come at a real shallow angle. Okay, that bushing was approximately 3/16 in depth from the surface here. And it's going to need a little bit of freshening up with sandpaper. Get Okay, that particular housing is cut for a TH350 pump bearing. So that takes the place of that 4-tabbed thrust washer that goes on back of the sun shell, which likes to fail. Okay, next is going to be our sun gear bushing. So this bushing is set to a depth of 11/16 of an inch. I don't think that's actually wide enough. Hopefully this one is. It looks like it might be barely wide enough. Oh, the hazards of using gloves. I got 2 sets of gloves on right now. Alright, let's see if this works. This is borderline. I mean, it's grabbing the back of it, but it's like not 100%. Alright, let's see what happens. Yeah, I'm not making much progress. Alright, I think I moved it enough to get this punch, you know, in position, so I'm just gonna punch it out. It's getting there. No, it's out. All right, so that's that with that one. Okay, no harm done to the interior of the sun gear here. All right, next is our forward clutch hub slash front ring gear. Easy enough. And then this particular bushing driver is made specifically for this bushing. This one works for removal, but it will not work for installation. Okay, last but not least is the center support. Now, I wasn't thinking when I decided to do my my video for the installation of these Teflon ceiling rings. So these are 4L80E center support one-piece Teflon ceiling rings that I always like to install on any 204R that's going to see any sort of performance whatsoever. But don't do what I did here. Take your bushings out first, reinstall new ones, then go ahead and install the rings. So make it, yeah, I guess a little bit more complicated to try and get these bushings out with this, this sizing tool on here and whatnot, but we'll have to work around it. Okay, and this tool, or this collet, is barely wide enough. Alright, so I'm gonna have to grab this thing from the back side to avoid upsetting the sizer or messing up the ceiling rings. Okay, here's the back side bushing. I should say this is technically the front side bushing. So I'll get in behind it and yank it. Now this bushing is installed to a depth of 15/16 of an inch. Okay, another situation I've got to be real careful, overly so, because normally I grab the stator, but can't really do that. All right. So here's our bushings and drivers. Okay, the only other bushing that we have to deal with is the case bushing. So I'll go ahead and press in all the bushings that we, on the parts we just removed old bushings from, and then we'll go ahead and we'll address the case. Like I said, the pump, the new stator comes with its own bushing, and then the body that's coming will have a bushing installed from the company that's providing it, and they use a Teflon Sonex bushing there. So let's go to the press and start pressing everything back in with the new bushings.